Welcome to Strung Out, the podcast that looks at life through the lens of an artist. Your host is the artist, writer, and musician, Martin Lawrence McCormack. Now here's Marty.
All right, welcome to Strung Out, and I'm at the studio home of Cory Goodrich, who is a singer-songwriter, performer, not only on the musical stage, but on the stage, or doing musicals as well. I think 5 times nominated Jeff for the Jeff Award or more, I don't know, something like that. And also an artist, painter. So we have a lot of ground to cover, but first let us indulge ourselves with some original music by Cory Goodrich. What's this one called?
This one's called Will I Find You.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Here we go. I didn't know if I was writing it for a lover or for a family member, maybe. And about 7 years ago, something happened. My mom died. And after that, I found exactly who I wrote this song for.
If the sky had no ceiling
could do it, yeah.
There.
Very beautiful song, and kudos to you on being able to work the pedals. That's something I could never do. But you're not just a one-woman band, though. I've seen that you have people that play with you and stuff like that. But I have a lot to ask you about. But let's dive right in. What do you consider yourself? When somebody says, "What are you, Cory?" I mean, that would be, what are you?
Well, that's really interesting because I actually had somebody say to me, "You do all these different things. You just need to pick one, you know." And I can't do it because I started out as a vocal major, as an opera singer, and didn't like that because I wasn't singing in English and I didn't know what the heck I was saying, and so I switched to musical theater. And they also told me when I sang opera that I acted too much, because it's all about the voice, you know, the column, and that's the storytelling. So I moved to musical theater, which is storytelling in a different way. And then just on a fluke, I got this job, Ring of Fire, where I played June Carter Cash. And so I picked up the guitar for the show and the auto harp, and that's a funny story. So I'll just go really quickly into this. I had to learn to play the auto harp, and I didn't know how to play the auto harp because I was playing June Carter, and I looked through this online magazine called Auto Harp Quarterly, because you can't do 12 issues of it, it's only enough for 4, and they had a recording contract, a recording contest rather.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, I'm gonna just apply for this. I don't know how to play. I don't have my own auto harp, but I'm just gonna, just for fun, because it would motivate me, And I won the darn thing. So I had a year to make an auto harp album.
Oh my God.
But then that's how I sort of became an actor musician from that. And then after my mother died, which we can talk about later, I found out something that made me start painting, just out of therapy, and also to connect with the person that I wrote the song for. And I found out that I'm also a painter too. So there's so little time, and there's so many things that I want to do and learn. And so I don't know. I don't think I classify myself as anything, because I think we are multifaceted and we pigeon ourselves into one thing. And you're the same way as an artist.
Yeah, the arts, being an artist is, you can be everything you want. I had the philosophy prior to the pandemic that I needed to burn some bridges in order to move forward. And so with my band Switchback, as I joke, you couldn't carry an easel in a minivan. It doesn't work. But some of those things were always with me, and they came back. And I think as an independent artist, which I would say you are, you have to wear many different hats, and so you have to kind of pull the artistic arrow out of the quiver, whether it be drawing, whether it be arranging, whether it be acting. All of them are intertwined, and So let me ask you this: when you go through the day, is there music just playing in your mind, and is it of your own creation, or what? How does your day? How do you look at the day as an artist?
It's funny because I'm also very compartmentalized about that. So whatever project I'm working on, that seems to take the priority, and I can't do anything else. So I go into these phases. Like last year, I was thinking, I music directed a show, Bright Star. So I was playing accordion and auto harp and conducting. So I had to immerse myself in that. And then the next show was Buddy Holly, in which I had to play rock organ. So that's all I did. I wouldn't let myself paint because, I get consumed by these things. And then the next thing was this show called What the Constitution Means to Me, which is basically a 90-minute monologue. So I'm like, that's what I'm working on. As soon as that was done, I started painting, so I'd go in these little chunks of focus.
How do you keep yourself disciplined in that regard? Is there some sort of Cory in your mind that tells you, okay, we have a deadline for the painting? Tell the listeners a little bit about that, because independent musicians, I think you need to have that sort of discipline, or else you're just going to flail, right?
Well, there's something I read recently about people with ADHD, it's kind of a stigma to be diagnosed with that, but it's actually a creative gold mine, and that's because you keep going in all these different things. And people with ADHD, when they have a timeline, that's when they flourish, and that's how I am. I won't do anything until I have a deadline, and then it's crank it out. But I also, I don't think I'm a genius at any of these things. I don't think I'm necessarily naturally talented, so there's a part of me that just doesn't want to fail, and so I just keep at it and keep learning. And you know, I'm not the best guitar player, I'm not the best songwriter, but I love it. And that's what art is about. I don't think it's about the product, I think it's about the act of creation.
Yeah, I think, you know, whether you're the best songwriter or best performer as compared to who, you're only yourself. And I think most people want to get to know the person and then their art. You know, it's very rare that people come around the back way where they're like, oh, I really love this art. Who is this person? That might be the initial thing, but ultimately it's the person that comes through, and your persona comes through. You seem like a very gentle soul, you know.
Oh, thank you.
And
I don't know if my husband.
yeah, that's the other thing too. Well, we can talk about that too, because we have like I said, a lot of stuff we can talk about. Since you're multi-talented, there's not too many people that I know that perform music, and in your case, musical theater as well, but also paint. In fact, it's on one hand. John Langford is another guy that I know. You know, with the Mekons, that does some exquisite drawings and that kind of artwork. With your songwriting, well, let me ask you this. What do you feel, it sounds to me like your musical performance has taken the main focus of your time. And is that where you feel like your talents are best used?
It's my natural thing. I know I can sing above everything else, you know, because I've always done that. So I put in more than my 10,000 hours on that one. And my mother was in a girl group called the Stair Step Sisters. They were sort of like an Andrew Sisters knockoff, but they actually were pretty successful, and they toured around the East Coast. So I got my voice from her. My father, Tom Goodrich, my father, his aunt was an opera singer at the Lyric Opera in Chicago, and I thought that I got my voice from her, but it turns out that he's not my actual father, so I didn't get my voice from him. So once I found that out, I went through, I'm getting the cart before the horse here, but I sort of went through a questioning, an identity crisis about who I was as an artist. Would I be a singer if I had known where my background really was, you know? And so I kind of rediscovered the painting and the writing music. I have a whole album about the discovery of my biological father. Let's talk about that, since we're talking about that. You wrote a book, and they say everybody has at least one book inside you, but you got that book published. You got, you know, tell the listeners a little bit about that book. So the book is called Folk Song, A Ballad of Death, Discovery, and DNA. And I loved that it was about folk song because it's about folk music, but also about my folks. So it's a song about my parents. And my mother died 7 years ago. And when she died, I found out through some things that she had left behind that my biological father was a man that she had had an affair with. And I had no clue. Everybody else in the family knew. My brothers, my sisters, the dog probably knew, but I didn't know. And so...
Why were they shielding you? What do you think?
Generationally, I think it was... there was a lot of stigma attached to a married woman and a married man having an affair, and having, pardon me, but a bastard child, illegitimate. I rail against those words for...
But it makes you the ultimate musician.
It does. Because what is art? It's storytelling about pain, right?
I mean, you know, it's like every artist has to have their pain thing. They say comedians, you know, behind every comedian there's somebody that had some sort of, you know, calamity in their life. Not to say that it was a calamity. Did you ever?
It was a calamity.
Did you ever find out about your biological father?
Yeah, actually. So after she died, I found out the name. I Google searched and I found his obituary. He had just died the year before.
Oh wow!
So I just missed him.
Wow.
But then I found. So I found the family. I found a younger brother who's 10 years younger than me, who is my best friend now. And I found this whole other side, and I discovered that Don, my biological father, was a painter. in addition to, you know, a lot of other
Okay.
fancy schmancy things. But one of his core philosophies was that anybody could paint. And that's what he taught to his children, except for me, because I didn't know I was his child. So that's why I started painting. Well, I didn't get to do this, so let me see. And then I had this, like, I could do it, which was so bizarre to me because I'd never picked up a paintbrush.
So we're talking fairly recently that you
Yes.
got the paintbrush going and you're like, let me do this.
Yep.
That's very cool.
Yeah, 6 years ago.
6 years ago.
So, and since then, that has become a part of my career and my storytelling. That's what I think all of these different disciplines have in common. They're all telling stories with your voice, with your words, with your, you know, with your music,
Okay.
with your painting.
Yeah. Do you by chance have another song ready?
I could.
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's listen to another song, and then after that we will we'll continue on. So we're here at Strung Out at the studio home of Cory Goodrich. We're talking about all the things that make her an artist, a quadruple threat.
It's also really, like, isn't it gracious to just, like, get down here and,
You know,
and
that-
bend over and...
I think this is good that the people who are viewing this podcast see that, you know, this is part of the whole thing about presenting music is, you know, everybody's so used to videos. You know, here I am, and they don't see you plugging in, tuning, schlepping, you know. But we're going to listen to Cory now play the song You.
Oh, here we go.
Shut the door completely to a love I cannot give, and what I lost. Did I know you in another life? Are we caught up in remembering another place and time? Or did I try to echo something from the past that couldn't emulate a future we were never meant to live? And but what I found, you're always wanting something, demanding and controlling. I don't know who's the puppet master or the doll that's bound in strings. I'm tossed and turned and longing, no sense of true belonging. You wanna feel my touch, but tell me that I'm not worth anything. You love me to obsession, but can't tame your aggression. I feel your anger as you try to make me constantly forgive. It's sadomasochism, the way we drive each other mad. Wanting what was never ours to give.
Awesome. And
That is always the way that you screw it up on the very last moment.
a good dismount. Hey, yeah. We are with Cory Goodrich, The Philosophy of Art on Strung Out, and we'll be back after this.
Hey, want to show your support of Martin's artist endeavors? Buy Me a Coffee is an online site that makes supporting Marty easy. In just a few taps, you can make a payment of any amount, and no account is needed. You can also decide to become an ongoing supporter. Go to martinmccormack.com and click on the words Support Martin. Let's help Martin keep it all caffeinated.
Hello, Polly Chase here, reminding you about the 20% discount you get from your first order at martinmccormack.com. Choose from fine art prints or merchandise like tote bags, t-shirts, pillowcases, and much more. You're sure to find something you love, but don't take my word for it. Let's hear from Jan in Australia about her new Marty merchandise.
I am so happy with my first purchase from Marty's collection of merchandise. I chose a mug, this one, which features red cloud. It's beautiful, it goes right around the whole mug. And I've just finished drinking a cappuccino from it. It was perfect. It was easy to order, only took a couple of weeks to arrive in Australia. Beautifully packaged. So now I'm considering what to buy next.
And we're back with Cory Goodrich, and we're talking about what it takes to be a modern artist. I noticed in your songs there's a lot of longing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes sense about the first song, you know, about your mom, because, you know, her keeping that secret from you in some ways, I'm guessing, makes you wonder now after the fact, like, what else were you maybe keeping from me, Mom?
Right, exactly.
You know? And is that a hole that'll ever be filled, do you think, or?
No. No, I mean,
Mhm.
that's been the hardest thing for me, is that I will never get to meet this man,
Yeah.
who is my father's father. I do a lot of advocacy for what we call NPEs, which is non-parental event or not parent expected, and also late discovery adoptees, because there's a trauma that surrounds a discovery like this that most people don't understand. And why would you? Because if you haven't gone through it, several of the things that people say is, your father is still your father. And that sounds like it's something that's being very helpful. In this case, Tom Goodrich was my father, absolutely. But there's this hole that, you know, you want to know your DNA, you want to know your family history, and you get gaslit a little bit, because this is a common thing among NPEs, is that you feel that there is something different about you, and the family who's covering the secret says, no, you're wrong, you're wrong. So you learn to second guess your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you find the discovery, you're like, oh my God, I was right about this. As you said, what else was I right about? And so I had to go through a process of trusting my intuition and just to sort of heal that. And another thing that I noticed is that in my early career, it's very much about performing and making people laugh and making my family laugh. You know, I became this kind of jester to cheer up the people who were really sad about, you know, breakups of marriages and affairs. And when I made this discovery, I wrote about it because that's where I put my art and that's where I put my pain, and also because I wanted to share that so that other people would know that they are not alone.
Now, the relationship that you had with the guy that your father,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't your father,
Yeah.
but what was that relationship like? How did he treat you? Did you ever sense anything off key there? Or?
No, I really never did, and he knew. I mean, that's the beautiful thing. They were divorced when I was 7,
Okay.
so I didn't spend a lot of time back in Delaware with my dad, with Tom Goodrich. So there was always a distance,
Mhm.
also because he was 56 when I was born, so there's also a generational difference, but just separation, because we lived in Michigan and he lived in Delaware. So,
but I adored him. I thought he was just so wonderful. He called me his little buddy, and that was one of the things. This cat is just sneaking up on you.
You know, the children and cats. That's the way it goes. I love it. So let me get this right then. Tom Goodrich was not your biological father.
Correct.
But your biological father's name was?
Don Garnett.
Don Garnett.
Yeah.
Okay. How interesting that is. And in some ways, it's almost like that in and of itself, that life experience became a muse. And you're still channeling that.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So with the MPE, this organization, you know, you have been able to, obviously your book would be something that would make a lot of sense, but have you been able to channel your other art into it, the painting, the performing, the writing, the songs?
Yeah, in fact, I'm working on doing a one-woman show right now about this with the music, integrating the book and the music. So eventually that is something that will be available and put out there. But like the artwork really surprisingly resonates with people. I will post, and I'll show you when we walk around. I have a painting my very first oil painting, and then a painting that one of my new brothers sent to me, painted by Don Garnett. And you'll see how eerily similar the two things are. So like I was totally channeling something with him, you know? But also in the beginning, I painted a lot of my pain, which I'll also show you upstairs. And I think it's a different thing because it is storytelling, but it's coming out in a visual way, and I love that.
We're gonna do a separate podcast about just your art, and that lends me to the next question, though I can ask you. When you have this art, not only the physical paintings, but the songs and such, how do you feel about sending them out into the world? You know, does it feel kind of strange to have a song that's out there that's so intimate, and then, you know, you've got, you know, somebody playing it on a radio or something like that, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting, the difference between personal art and what is for public consumption. But I think the deepest, most vulnerable parts of us that we are afraid to share are the things we have to share the most. So I guess I don't have any qualms about that because I know somebody else that's going to resonate for somebody else. I think about the book sometimes though, and I'm like, I can't believe I told everybody that in this book, but it was necessary. I mean, if I started editing my experience, then I'm sort of doing what my family did, which was edit that part out of my life.
I was just gonna say how interesting that your family told you nothing. So it makes total sense that you would tell the world, because that kind of just balances the whole yin and yang of the whole thing. You know?
Absolutely. I mean, and one of the things my stepfather said to me was like, don't tell anybody. And I did feel really guilty because he didn't want my mother to be embarrassed. He didn't want her reputation to be embarrassed, which I totally understand. But my point at the time was, if she didn't want me to tell people, she should have told me herself, and then I wouldn't have to do this, you know.
And like you say, in today's day and age, I mean, there's a lot of great artists that have come out of unions that weren't, you know, marriages or whatever, their affairs or loves and stuff like that. So it's a very artistic thing. And not to say that, you know, that you would wish the lack of information about a parent on anybody, you know, but in some ways it's been, like I said, a muse. And
yeah, well, unpopular opinions I hold. Here we go.
Good.
So my therapist actually said, she said this. She said, I have a lot of clients who are, you know, children of affairs, and they are all sparkly, artistic people. And what the conclusion we kind of came to was that, you know, you are created, like I said, this is unpopular, I'm sure, but when you're having an affair, it is an intense, passionate relationship. So you're born out of this incredible passion. And I wonder if that doesn't have something to do with it.
I wouldn't discount it. I think there is a lot having to do with the emotions, you know, at the time. And if anything, that's another thing to mine. I mean, what's the depth of the, you know, why did that affair come about? There had to be some sort of something that clicked for those, your mom and Don, to make it happen in such a way. People don't normally just get into affairs for no reason whatsoever.
Exactly.
There's a lot of dynamics that, but it has made you who you are. In that sense, from an artistic point of view, I mean, it's certainly given you an ability to channel some of the questions that you might have about yourself,
Right.
and in turn, you're helping other people.
Yeah.
We have just a couple minutes left on this podcast, and we're going to cut to a video, and you listeners will get to listen to it. We haven't picked that video out, so I'm just going to say,
We'll see.
right now we're going to listen and watch a studio-produced video by Cory Goodrich, and you're on Strung Out. And we wait. And we're back. I always like to kind of wrap up this podcast, any podcast really, with just advice. You've been at this for a while, and you're successful, and you're an artist that people know about, but the world doesn't know about. As an independent artist, that's usually how it works, right? I always like to quote one of my producers, W.O.M.A.N, says, "Success in our business." He's the father of Natalie Main, the Dixie Chicks.
Oh, wow.
Lloyd's a great pedal steel player, but
Just the chicks now.
yeah, just the chicks. Yeah. But I always took to heart, he said, you want to be known by your peers, but you want to be able to walk into a Walmart and nobody knows who the hell you are. To paraphrase Lloyd a little bit. I think there's some truth about that with independent art. What is your advice to people that are in a world where celebrity has such a big cachet?
Yeah. My job is not to promote. My job is not to sell. My job is to create. Now, maybe that's to my detriment, but if I think about what other people want and what is popular and what is shiny and will sell, then I'm not being true to myself. So if I give you any advice, it is to be true to yourself, to never lose your curiosity, to never stop learning. I mean, the fact that I do so many things has actually kept me employed for a very long time. And that's because I just want to learn new stuff and just keep going and keep exploring. And I think if you keep that curiosity throughout your life, you will never grow old, right?
Well, that's true. And one of the weird things about being an artist is there's no real artist school, whether even for performing like in musical theater, that says, okay, now you got this is how you do it. There's no, like once you get your law degree, you become a lawyer, you go to a law firm, and there's a certain pathway that's so clear. And the way of the artist is never clear.
Because artists are breaking the rules. You have to learn the rules so that you can break them, but it's the artists who push society forward and challenge opinions and societal norms, So yeah, there is no pathway. There's only your own creation and your own idea of what you want to do.
Well, let's leave it at that for this podcast. I want to thank Cory Goodrich for having me in her home, in her great studio. I want to thank her cat.
Milo.
Milo. Is that from the Phantom Toll Booth, or was he named after that character in the Phantom Toll Booth? Maybe not.
No.
Okay. And as always, guys, thank you for watching and listening to Strung Out. And we're going to continue with Cory on the next podcast. So, bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. For more information about this show or a transcript, visit martinmccormack.com. While there, sign up for our newsletter. See you next time on Strung Out.
It's all so wrong, this pain we feel makes no sense at all. A swan song wasn't part of the deal, was no curtain call. Given no choice, given no step.